Everyone, my name is Ståle Hansen. I'm from Norway, and this is my colleague.
My name is Marten Hellebro. I'm from Sweden.
And we work in a company called Cloudway. We are actually 7 MVPs. We are based in Norway, Sweden, Ireland, and here in the US. And we spend a lot of time at the Microsoft booth talking to Ignite participants and as MVPs. And we get asked questions about how to get from Skype for Business to Teams with voice. And if you want to bring your own SIP trunk, direct routing is the path to do it. So for the first time in the history of the world, you actually can deploy and bring your own SIP trunk, and you have an infrastructure fully deployed in the cloud. How cool is that? Right?
Yeah.
You can deploy the SBC appliance in your own hypervisor, virtually, in any cloud, or get it hosted by someone else. And the best part is, you get still the full feature set for telephony, regardless of where you're hosting it. And I really like the beauty of how Microsoft have solved the direct routing and bring your own SIP trunk problem. Right? Because we're wanting this for a long time, right? So instead of hosting a full Skype for Business deployment, you need 1 or 2 appliances, and then you're good to go. And it's a regular SIP trunk. You need some certificates and so on. So while Martin here sets up the demo and prepares the demo, I will walk through some prerequisites. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Are you ready? Yes. All right. Yeah, there you go. Things to do before you start. So, number 1, to deploy it in Azure, you need to have a subscription. That's a given, right? But yeah, you need to have that in place. Number 2, you need to have access as an administrator to create routing groups in Azure. Number 3, you also need to plan the Azure networking, because as part of deploying this, you also get asked to where do you want to put the networking. Is there an existing network infrastructure in Azure deployed by the customer or deployed by you? Well, then you need to reuse that and make sure you place the SBC in a network where you have a public IP address. Because we need to connect to Office 365, we need a public IP address that we get from Azure, but we need to put it in the correct network. In our demo, though, we don't have any Azure network infrastructure, so we just use the defaults. Number 4, you also need to understand direct routing networking, because this is also important. The moment you have deployed your SBC in Azure, it is wide open. So there are some networking standards you need to follow. Microsoft has their connection points for signaling, which is the green arrow here, 5061. And these are the IP addresses that you need to open for on that port. But then you have the media, which is also very well defined by Microsoft. That is where you lock it down. So we're only doing media with Microsoft. So these are Microsoft networks, this is UDP, and this is what goes into your SBC. And then the question is, do you want to use media bypass in Azure? I don't know, I don't think you should. Why would you do that? Because then we'll just go directly to Azure instead of directly to Office 365, because it goes on the public leg. So I would recommend you thinking about media bypass if you have deployed your SBC on premises. And then, of course, certificates. You need a certificate. Star certificate is supported. And these are the main certificate providers, because it's an encrypted connection to Office 365. You can use Star certificate, or you can use multiple names. And this, from a hoster perspective, if you want to host multiple Office 365s, you just add multiple names in this certificate. And then we also have prepared in the cloud as well So we added the gateway. It's a PowerShell commandlet. We define our FQDN, which is SBC1, Morten, SBC1.
Right.
And then the signaling port, which by default is 5067. So we're going to use that. So we have prepared this. This is already set up because it could take some time to actually have it replicate through the infrastructure. So we have cheated it. We have prepared some stuff. All right, demo time. Are you ready, Morten?
Yes. All right. Here we are in the Azure portal. When we will look for we're installing an AudioCodes SBC here.
Yeah, so the SBCs that are available in Azure and the marketplace is AudioCodes, Ribbon, and AnyNode.
So here we can see that we found our AudioCode SBC. It gives us some information about what it is, but we'll just go through here. So we have to give this a name, and in this case we're going to name it Ignite 19, username.
So while he types that in, a tip here, don't get creative here. If you use capital letters, the DNS you get from Microsoft will fail. So don't get creative. Keep it simple. So the name of the SBC should be like numbers and small letters.
And we choose the subscription because it's a paid service. And we will create a new resource group. We'll put this.
So while we create the resource group, the password we define here is the password we access the SBC with. Don't get creative there as well. Because if you use a password generator, you have lots of weird letters, right? Just use capital letters, regular letters, numbers, and @. Because we deployed this a couple of times and we weren't able to log into the actual SBC after when we had super creative passwords.
And since we are based in Europe, we'll choose to run our SBC in Europe, but choose your location that's nearest to you. We choose the sizing of this machine. We go for the standard sizing for this demo. It depends on how big load you're running on your SBCs. And we're not doing any configuration file at this moment. That will we come back to later. So we configure the networking for this one. We will use one network setup. When we just go through very basic configuration here. We have our virtual network here. We have a default address space that we will use for this demo. But as Ståle said, you need to know your networking before setting this up. So, and subnet, same with the subnet. We create the subnet. We use the default settings here for this demo purposes. And therefore, here are the public IP address. We need this one to have a static IP, so it doesn't change. So we select that, and we move on. The public DNS name is here. All right, you're following along so far? Yay, awesome. Here you can see it's running final validation for all the configuration we put in, and we get a pass for that. So then we should be good to go to install it. All right, so here we can see.
It's deploying.
It's deploying.
That's cool.
Yeah. You see here, deployment in progress. And while it does that, we're going to go to the DNS and put out this IP address that the machine now got. So we're gonna hopefully see the IP address here very soon. Its deployment is underway.
So if you go to operation details, do you get any more info?
Here it comes.
Oh, awesome.
SBC, almost there. We're just waiting for it to get its external IP. Okay.
So we have created a DNS record. We have already deployed this in Teams. So now we need to get that IP address and put it into DNS. We have a low time to live, like 1 second, which means that when we updated with the public IP address, then we can just add that to DNS and it will get connected with the Teams SBC.
All right. I got the IP address here.
Cool.
We're going to go to the DNS, also in Azure. And I'm going to update the A record I have here for SBC1.
Yeah, update the SBC as well.
All right, take both.
All to remember when I was testing this out. If it was SBC or SBC1.
All right.
So if you want to have a redundant setup, you either have like a scale-out cloud solution where you can deploy multiple SBCs that handles media and so on, or you can also have multiple just standalone SBCs and give them the name SBC1, SBC2, and so on and so forth, and use those as connection point in and by adding multiple gateways in Teams as well. At that point, you can, if one fails, then you can route it to another, and this is something you define in Teams.
All right.
How are we doing?
We got our DNS records in place. We're just waiting for the final deployment operations here.
Cool.
So we're almost there.
So this, I guess we can go and look at the guides to create the INI file.
Yeah, because now we're setting up a generic SBC for direct routing, but it needs configuration. So, and for that we're using a guide from our good friend of ours, Shane Howie. He's created this form that you fill in, and that generates the configuration you need to actually have this configuration put into an INI file that we can import into the SBC.
Right, so when we get the SBC, we log on to the first time, it's clean, it's empty. Then we need to set up the Teams settings, the Teams configuration. And that is the same configuration every time. The only thing that changes is the networking, maybe some of the names, but the basic setup is the same. So Shane here has created a basic INI file that we are going to use. So which fields are you filling in here, Morten?
Yes, exactly. I'm filling out my email address here. That's more of a courtesy to the creator of this awesome configuration help. But then here we have the SBC name. One.
Yeah, SBC1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here you can see I have the IP address there, right? And of course we need a zip trunk to get the telephony into the SBC. So are using Cellip as a provider here. And we don't have any additional settings here, so we simply press submit. And what it does now, it creates the configuration file with all the configuration we put into this together with everything else that is needed for this audio codes. So we have the configuration file here.
All right.
And then we're going to head back to Azure. And yay!
Hey!
Your deployment is complete.
It's complete.
We have an SBC in Azure.
Woohoo!
That was like in 10 minutes, maybe.
Yep. And we have 6 minutes left. Let's speed this up.
Yep. Yeah, we have configuration to do. All right.
Woohoo! SBC1, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you went to the IP address. Try SBC1 as well,
Okay, sorry.
just to be cool.
PC1. Yay, there we go.
How cool is that, right? It's working. So now we're using the username we defined, the password we defined, and right now, this SBC is wide open to the internet. And I looked at the logs after signing into this, and I immediately saw that our SSH ports were hammered. Like they were doing password guessing. So you should really go back into Azure, look at the networking, and lock down the networking in Azure for that resource group, and make sure you lock it down like you had in the previous picture, with the ports and everything. And also another recommendation is to set up a management machine, using virtual machine manager maybe, or virtual machines, to have that as a management machine. So you have the same IP every time for managing this SBC. Right?
Yeah.
It's my turn?
Yeah, take it away.
Okay, thanks. So the next thing here is to go to configuration file, because we need to load the configuration. Go to configuration files. This is super fast. Let's reload this. Load ini file. Oh, I need to choose file first. Then let's go to downloads, I guess. Our ini file. Load. Yes. It's loading. Then we have to do a reset. Save. Save to flash, yes. And I think like this is kind of confusing, right? Because you're going to reboot with a new configuration, but here it says reset, right? That's if you are in a production environment, you don't want to reset it, you want to reboot it, but it's reset. So right now it's rebooting in the backend with the new configuration. When we come back up, we need to do two things. We need to add the correct network interface to the correct connection point, the SIP interface. Because we can choose to have multiple network cards, one for internal, one for external, and then be able to connect them correct. So we need to add that. And also, since this is encrypted traffic, we need to add our certificate, and we already have that available. And also, you need to trust the Microsoft certificate. So we need to add that. So that's the two things we're going to do when this comes back up online. How are we doing on time?
Not good.
2 minutes. Let's do this. Well, this is the bonus material though, right? Because the SBC is already deployed, it's ready for configuration. And this is the easy part, but again, you need to plan for it from an infrastructure point of view. From here though, you need to set up PSTN access rules, you need to set up dial plans, and you need to set up routing in Teams, assign the numbers. And also, the most difficult part is the session border controller configuration. If you need to manipulate the traffic, change the numbers, and that's where the hard work is, right? And I also recommend to really test this out. Test it out with calling, call forwarding, and so on. So did our configuration load, Morten?
Yeah, I think so. We're up and
right?
running.
So let's go to SIP interfaces. Now we have 2 SIP interfaces. So we need to go to direct routing. We need to add network interface, apply. And then we need to go to IP network. We need to go to security. TLS context. Here I'm going to add certificate. So what you need in order to add the certificate, you need the key file. And the key file we can find further down here. That's our key file, PFX file. And then you take load file. Unsuccessful, of course. It's a live demo. I need to, of course, add the password. That's correct. So we have the PFX, open, my super advanced password.
Password 1.
How do you know?
Just know.
Load. Successful.
Awesome.
And then we need the PEM formatted file for our SBC. We need this one. Open. Load file. Successful. So now we need to go back and add the root certificate as well. The Microsoft root certificate, which you can download from the internet. So yeah, let's do this.
Getting there.
Trying again. Come on, yeah. So you see here, I have my DigiCert root certificates. Then I need to import my Microsoft certificate. So when I imported the PFX files, it also imported my root certificates, which is really awesome. Whoa. What was that? Import. Open. Right. It's a live demo, right?
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong? So let's switch back to the computer.
Yep.
So we are actually on our final leg here now, where we have imported the certificate, we added the DNS, and what will happen when we have the connection running, if I actually manage to import that certificate right now, you would see the options messages starting to go here. And you would get it to green. So the goal is to, didn't we have that green here? Was it previous slide?
Yeah, we made some last minute changes.
Oh, that's, thank you for that.
In the other slide, I mean.
Okay, so this is our goal. We were so close, almost, right?
Yeah, almost there.
So
certificates, always tricky.
Yeah, certificates, import, that's awesome. And the next step is to check it out there. And a quick tip here, for those number normalizations, those we do directly in the Teams client, that's where we add, using the ucdialplans.com by MVP Ken Lasko, he got you covered. So when you need to normalize numbers in Singapore, in Norway, in Ireland, you don't need to have to know, you can just do it here. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.